I went home on a Sunday, watched WrestleMania, and it was the WrestleMania with Tyson. And I watched that thing from start to finish, and every match had a movie trailer quality intro to explain how they got to where they were. Every match performed. Kane was shooting fire out of his fingertips, turns down the two biggest draws, you versus Tyson. You do that. I mean everything. And we got to TV that Monday, and I looked at Sullivan, and he gave me the Iggy to come over to him at lunchtime. He said, "Brother," he said, "you watched that last night?" I said, "You know I did." He said, "Well, when I told you," because he already knew. He said, because you guys, it just kept getting, you guys kept getting better and better and better, and it just, we were hanging on by a thread. And he looked over at me and he goes, "If you didn't feel the jolt last night, the Titanic hit the iceberg." Sully, man, there's nobody probably much smarter than him. I said, "Hey, brother," I said the exact same thing in my house. He says, "They're taking in water." And shortly after that is when they came to me, because of just like, the guys were putting away the cello on the front deck. Say, "It was a pleasure to play with you, sir. Pleasure to play with you, sir. Mr. Nash, you want the book?"
When did y'all switch to Kevin Nash having a book?
That was towards the end when, quite honestly, I was fried. There were things going on the business side, internally at Turner, Time Warner, AOL, that my brain was in a freaking blender.
You're talking about when things kind of started going awry. It was the merger with Time Warner, AOL.
There were two. There was the Time Warner merger, which was a real challenge, and then when it became AOL Time Warner, it just got ass ugly.
Okay, so what changed for you when that merger happened?
Again,
that's when the headaches began?
Oh, yeah. But Time Warner is when it really began. I'll never forget this. I went to a Christmas party one time at Terry McGurk's house. Terry McGurk at the time was the CEO of Turner Broadcasting. And it was just a handful of executives and their families that got invited to this Christmas party. And I went to Terry McGurk's house, and everybody that anybody was there. And Gerald Levin, who was at the time the CEO of Time Warner, came in. And everybody toasted, and it was a big deal. And Gerald Levin said, one of the greatest things about this merger is that we're going to take the stability and the magnitude of this Time Warner infrastructure, and we're going to infuse it with the entrepreneurial drive of the Turner organization. And together we're going to become unbeatable. And I believed it. Like, you got to prove to me that I can't believe you before I won't believe you.
Right.
I don't immediately distrust people. I immediately trust them. And when he said that, I went, God damn, this is going to be even better than it's been. And mind you, it was pretty good for me. I had Ted Turner's confidence. And I was so excited. And somebody else about a week later said, be careful, because here's how these corporate mergers work. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly but surely, the company that buys the other company, own it. They control it. Everything changes. And within months, I started seeing guys that were pretty loose, pretty cool, pretty creative, pretty entrepreneurial, people at my level and way above my level. All of a sudden, they're wearing blue suits, white shirts, red ties, wingtip shoes, walking and talking like their Time Warner counterparts. Well, this is ugly. And then the reality hit. They changed everything about the way we did business. And that was the beginning of the end. And that's about the time when I brought Kevin in, because my head was just, I was crushed.
So how did he do for you?
Kevin's a friend. He wasn't really cut out to be a booker. He didn't, head of creative. He didn't have the support. People looked at him as being, taking care of himself. And it was a bad situation for him. His intentions were there.
Right.
And his capabilities there. Kevin's a bright, talented guy. And he could probably do it right now. Right. But back then, coming off of everything that we'd come through on the NWO and all the crap that went along with it, it was horrible timing for him.
Don't tell me, it was a tie between him and Russo?
No. Kevin tried. Kevin did try.
Kevin tried to do the right thing. The only problem was the boys didn't want to back Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin might have been successful, but most of the talent didn't appreciate or didn't respect him as a booker. You can't have a booker and work because you always take care of yourself.
Of course.
You know, I mean, I would. And I'd make sure I'd be the highest paid son of a bitch there too, but Kevin just didn't have the respect, and he didn't have the boys behind him to help him, you know. And then when you got guys like Scotty and Robbie Steiner, you know, I mean, big names and big talents, and you know, like Steiner, I mean, Big Papa Pump, I mean, golly, you know, it would have worked, you know. It just, guys didn't want to back him.
But how do you respond when people say that you beat Goldberg too early?
I wasn't booking when Goldberg got beat.
So that wasn't even your...
That's the one thing that I love, you know. It's like, you know, I took over like in February. I beat Goldberg in December. You know?
Right.
I beat him in December. I started booking like February the 13th or 16th or something like that. It's just like, oh, Nash starts I wasn't even booking. You know?
So the timetables were pretty much all messed up.
Worked for Bill. When Bill tells his story, I was booking.
Right.
You know? Yeah, but this is the thing that people say, oh, yeah, well, you beat Goldberg. I don't know, man. I was at the building every night when they were chanting Goldberg sucks. You know?
Right.
I'm like thinking, okay, so he's your top baby face. I never heard him chant Austin sucks. You know? He's your top baby face. He's undefeated. He's now the New York Yankees.
So you felt it was time too.
And it wasn't like I went out there and had a babyface beat him clean match.
Right.
We ran in more shit, did more to fucking protect him besides have Oswald shoot him from the book depository.
Right.
And then fucking that, and I did it for, and then I turn around and give the belt away. 4 days later, 5 days later? Yeah, because I wanted the run with the strap and I wanted the merchandise. I look like the biggest douchebag of all.
It's funny though.
You know? I mean, how did that get me over? In Bill's book and in a lot of the storylines, they'll put that Kevin Nash took over the book and beat Bill Goldberg. I didn't start booking until February the 16th or 14th. We beat Bill on December 27th.
Right.
So I wasn't the booker. I've always had stroke. I've had stroke since '93. But you have to realize too that at 6'10", 300 pounds, you walk in a room anywhere, you got stroke. I don't give a fuck if you're the worst guy in the business. Ain't nobody gonna say shit to your face.
Yeah.
So I mean, stroke is stroke.
So whose call was it to beat Goldberg at Starrcade?
It was Eric's. I mean, Eric was the one that inevitably said we need to beat him because they were chanting Goldberg sucked.
Kevin, let's switch gears. Let's talk about 2 weeks before that finger poke of doom. Goldberg lost the world title. Goldberg had this huge undefeated streak. He came out of nowhere in September of '97 and started his undefeated streak against Hugh Morris. And then ultimately, he lost the title to Kevin Nash at Starrcade in 1998. Talk to us a little bit about that. The title loss, but if you go back and you look at the tape, hindsight being what it is, a lot of people were cheering Kevin Nash when he won that title at the MCI Center in D.C. against Goldberg.
Okay. Now, you're right. Kevin was not just a heel, he was a babyface. They drew 43,000 people. I was still booking then, and I said, Eric said, we're going to beat him. I said, come here, let's go outside. I said, there's 43,000 people here. He said, yeah, but they're tired of seeing him winning. I said, really? Well, why are they here? They're here to see him lose? So I was against him losing. But I said, if you're going to lose, here's the finish. You and Kevin have a hell of a match. You set Kevin up for your spear. You go for your spear. Kevin's in the corner, moves the other way. You hit the post. You come back out. Kevin gives you a big boot, grabs you, and just pulls you real quick. 1, 2, 3, and you've lost on a legitimate way. Well, if you didn't move the post, blah, blah, blah. They had taser guns. They had everybody but King Tut involved in the finish. You know, handcuffs, all that shit.
Yeah.
While we built him as legitimate. That did hurt him, but what hurt him more was when Russo came in, and then 6 weeks later, Goldberg was running from Booker T.
Yeah.
Finger poke of doom. You're talking about Hogan and Nash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
Kevin, you were the booker then, right?
Yeah, that was you're absolutely right, Conrad. That was the finger poke. Nash could do nothing about it, and he was smart enough, Rick, to understand he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because he always wanted to work with Hogan, because he was a Hogan fan.
Yeah.
But Hogan didn't really want to work with Kevin because Kevin was so much bigger than Hulk at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
So and Hogan said, "Oh, this will be the way to get it over. We wouldn't be fighting one another." And I said to him, "Well, if this was the World Heavyweight Championship was legit, you guys would fight for it and then shake hands afterwards." "Oh, no, that's just going to weaken us." I got to stand up for Nash on this one. He didn't want to do it, but it was Hogan's deal.
Yeah, no. First of all, we don't have a side on this.
No. I'm saying I didn't have a side on it either.
No, Kevin. What I'm saying is, this is something that I wasn't privileged to know because, I tried to leave you alone.
At one point, didn't Kevin Nash also have creative control back in the whole finger point cover win situation?
When Hogan and Kevin did that in Georgia Dome?
Yeah.
No, that was Hogan. He wanted the belt again. It was stupid, finger pointing the guy who lays down. That was Hogan. He wanted the belt again. He was a mark, man. I mean, it's a known fact. He had creative control in his contract. And he decided the whole show, It was brutal, man.
And when he got the book, he had just gotten the book, or he got it like a little bit after that. Because I remember that Eric Bischoff actually told me, he goes, "Man," I need to take a fucking vacation. I need to because I want to go somewhere with my daughter. And he said, and I might leave Kevin with the book. And I was thinking to myself, nice, I'm probably going to get steamrolled. But, and I remember when he came back, he actually told me, "Man, I had so much fun in France. I wish I could have stayed there, more time." Eric was really stressed out. As much of a dick as he was very stressed out.
And I thought you handled it real smoothly the way when you had your meeting. You said, "Well, I've been messing with Eric for a long time now, saying I can do better, I can do better. Well, now I'm gonna have to back up what I said." So I think the first week, just to show that you're a businessman, didn't Ray beat you on the first night, John? Just so you could set the standard, like, when I come to you and tell you to do a job, I don't want to hear anything about it.
If you're going to talk shit, Nash, because you say that I fucked up your booking, that I fucked you on the booking, okay, let me clarify that. He's mad because when Master P came in, that was actually his idea. I told Master P, they're going to find some way of fucking this up. And they did. They turned the fucking Duncombe and Wyndham and Kurt Hennig, they were heels, and they kind of turned them face. Mm-hmm. And, with the rap is crap thing, and then they had this thing where, like, in Georgia, fucking Crackerville, they had this thing where they had, like, Master P's whole clique, which was, like, I don't know, dude, like 8 guys or some shit, like real big guys, beating the shit out of the Cowboys. So imagine, in front of a bunch of rednecks, 8 black guys beating up 3 Cowboys, and we're the baby faces as Latinos. That did not get over, Right. And I think that was a Kevin Sullivan thing, but Nash co-signed it. So he could have easily not let it happen, but he did. That was also around the same time where I did the infamous USA Today article where I buried Eric and I buried Kevin. Dude, one of the things he did? Oh, yeah, here's Mr. Nice Guy, MSL. He wanted me and Vampiro, who, as you know, we had legitimate heat. He booked us together so we would see if we could get us to fight. Okay? And if he denies that, dude, I got that information from the motherfucker that was living in your crib. And you know who I'm talking about. So there's, what type of shit is that, MSL? Trying to put me in a program with somebody he knows I dislike, hoping we'll get into a real fight.
I've talked to Kev extensively as he would walk me through his booking period and trying to justify a lot of those decisions. And, I told him, hey, I don't think that was a bright move. It's a tough spot for anybody to be in. People are going to make mistakes.
And what he say? And what did he say?
And I think when you talk to him about it, his view is he had a lot of certain things in mind for how he was going to book the company, and then 3 or 4 of the top guys that he had in mind all got either injured or Scott went to rehab. And I think from his perspective, he kind of just got lost because. It's one thing, and I'm sure there's fans listening to this that we all fantasy book of, man, if I was in charge, this is what I would do. And then you get the job and you realize there's so much more to it of dealing with injuries, dealing with uncooperative talent, that maybe he ended up over his head a little bit.
When I was booking, I wanted to make Hogan a commissioner.
Why did that never come about?
Because it killed that whole money thing in his contract where he got, so many hundreds of $1,000s for the pay-per-view and this and that. And, it was a great idea because he needed some time away from the ring, but I still wanted to use him in 6 or 7 segments of the 3 hours, and also I just wanted to get some almost I was going to make him the president,
right?
Where he was going to be the president of World Championship Wrestling, not the commissioner.
Do you think it would have worked?
I don't know. I think him in a suit would have been pretty sweet. And it looked like he was going to be the good guy, but he, underneath it was actually, stirring the shit. It gave you a catalyst to write your TV off of.
Right.
So we just had to make Flair crazy instead.
Did you like that angle with the whole Ric Flair?
Like I said, we couldn't do anything that had sex in it because Standards and Practice wouldn't let us. We couldn't do anything that had any kind of alternative lifestyle or anything. I mean, we were so bound to what we could do that the only thing we could do was comedy. And comedy in a wrestling show really doesn't work, but if it's your only avenue.
Talk to me a minute about part of what you guys had to do with these booking meetings. Now, because you're part of a large corporation, they need to keep an eye on what's coming down the road. You don't work from scripts, so they can't approve scripts. So the next best thing is they're going to put somebody from, what's the department? I'm having a brain. Standards and Practices.
And Human Resources.
And Human Resources. In your booking meetings with the creative team.
Right.
Who are, I'm assuming, going to shoot down anything that sounds like it might be edgy and
absolutely
and a little dangerous, which is what you need to do to compete with what's going on USA Network, which is edgy and dangerous. Talk about that dynamic. What does a booking meeting look like with these people in it? What happens?
First of all, now it's no more foreign objects because that's not politically correct. The word foreign. It's an international object. Okay? You see where we're going?
Oh my God.
No. Now we're having, they had said to me, no more mixed gender matches unless the guy doesn't fight back. Well, I wasn't a big fan of mixed gender matches, so I didn't care, but how do you have a wrestling match with the guy who doesn't fight back? And then, of course, there was no blood even by accident, no act of violence, perceived violence with the object. Then it was, maybe we should all be priests and hear confession.
Well, but at some point, do you stand there and go, what do you want me to do with this?
Well, it got to be a point where it was absurd. And, here's a guy that 3 weeks ago knew nothing about wrestling, and I understand where they're at. They're trying to protect their jobs.
Sure, of course.
So they have to justify their income. Well, I kept them in control. The guy from Human Resources finally let up a little. But, it was a struggle every time. And here's Vince with Generation X and, man, you know what I mean? And strippers and poles and...
Mae Young's breast wasn't pleasant to look at, but it was out.
Yeah, he had it all, and we're going to go the other way. It was like, I think that at that time, everybody knew we were fighting an uphill battle that we weren't going to win.
They got so greedy. Thunder was the worst thing you could do.
Right.
Thunder was our Waterloo. I mean, just doing Thunder was just a nightmare, and it was it was a momentum killer because it was a branded product that wasn't taken to the same consideration the Nitro show was. It was taped. Just a horrible idea. Taking Nitro to 3 hours was brutal. They just bastardized it.
I said this before. Nash was like one of the guys that he like kept me sane because I was just basically I was basically at the end of my rope, but I was just doing it because I had to do it because it was my job. And he was the one who I had a friendship with him outside of that room, and there were times when he and I would do a little Shakespeare when we'd want to get something across. We would act like we were fighting about something, but really what we were doing was we were working everybody in the room to get what we wanted.
Kevin Nash, you guys are awful hard on him. Everybody's real hard on him. I mean, maybe he's done some stuff that people don't agree with, but he's got a pretty contemporary mind as far as pop culture, and I don't think he ever really got to exploit that. I don't think there was an environment there for him to do the things he wanted to do with character development. I mean, there was battle, there was struggles going on between the production side and the talent creative side. So I mean, those were things that we had to address as well.
You got to understand, there wasn't a lot of cooperation the last couple years between production and the writing at the creative team at WCW. It was almost like combative almost. It's like they didn't like the fact that we were writing a lot of backstage stuff and that they
were
had
making their lives difficult.
They had to work harder.
Yeah.
So it's like so it's like okay, no, so that's a main thing that that you got to understand. The creative team didn't really put WCW out of business. It's like the lack of cooperation and teamwork within the company holistically is what put WCW out of business.
I mean, it's like that. There's a book about the death of WCW that I've never read it because the wrestling people live in such a bubble that they don't realize that there was a .com crash, that AOL came in, took over Time Warner, that a $73 stock dropped to $15, that AOL sold everything they could. I mean, they sold the Braves, the Hawks, they sold everything, But I booked WCW to its death. I personally did it.